All right. So, hello and welcome everyone to the second podcast on this channel. So, we did one with David around a month ago, and I'm very positively surprised with the feedback this podcast got. Today, we got someone from a bit different background, but another very interesting guest. What's up, Marko? And tell us how you're doing in these difficult for everyone times.
Hey, it's going well. The first week, when everything started to shut down, we were beginning the beginner stages of the quarantine. It was a little bit hard to manage everything, but right now things are better than they used to be, so everything's cool.
So let's give them a bit of context of who you are, where do you live at the moment, how is the
Yes.
situation in your country, and yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Marko. I come from Slovenia. I work as a strength coach under MTS Coaching and the co-founder of PowerMed. So basically, right now the situation is we're week 4 in the lockdown, and just a week ago they decided that we can't cross like uh, regions, not really regions, but like states. Basically, for
Okay.
if any Americans are watching, it's better to imagine that like you can't cross cities more or less. So you're basically confined in those like 40 kilometers radius, and that's it.
Yes.
So yeah, so things kind of suck, to be honest. I'm at my parents' place in a very small village. It doesn't really matter. But the good thing is I have access to a home gym here, so it could be worse. You know what I mean?
Obviously, and
Yeah.
that's the main focus of our today's discussion, because what we want to go through today is basically give advice, and I want to provoke, as you have lots of clients who do struggle with this kind of situations and are from different backgrounds, because we did not mention that you're kind of like hybrid coach, yeah, because you do both calisthenics and powerlifting coaching. So you
Yeah.
have kind of like from both worlds, and you know what difficulties these both people from these both worlds have to face with. And so we're going to go through some questions. I'm going to provoke some, I hope, very interesting answers and very interesting solutions to some problems. So as we went through the current situation that we live in, let's establish that for now, for everyone that is watching, due to quarantine, you don't have any access to gym, you don't have access to something like park, and you're forced basically to train at home, for example, in your room. So we're gonna look at from this perspective, and so before we're gonna go into more practical stuff, I want to ask you, Marko, like, what is your what attitude should we have? It's obviously a very hard mental situation for everyone that is very have very serious attitude towards their training goals. It's going to be very hard to switch their mindset and to just mentally resist this very hard, situation. So what would you see, like, what is the best attitude? Should we be very stressed about gains in these difficult times, or should we just let it, be on our like second place of priorities right now?
So basically, if you just train for like health reasons, so you're basically just a general population kind of dude just training, you don't need to stress at all. You can just do some basic circuit, 30-minute per day training 3 times per week, and you're set. You know what I mean? Because the World Health Organization, anyway, they suggest like training at least 2 times per week with like resistance training to like a greater intensity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if we're just talking healthy reasons, uh, it's better to train than not to train, definitely. Even if you just do, like I said, a circuit workout in your living room with your wife, girlfriend, whatever. If you're like a serious gym goer, like a serious athlete, competitive, whatever, from powerlifting to calisthenics, it really doesn't matter. Things are different a little bit. So it all depends on the equipment you have access to, obviously. But I've got a few clients that have been left with only their floor. So basically, no dumbbells, no rings, no resistance bands, just the floor. So
and
what can you do?
Powerlifting client as well.
Right now, I'm talking about powerlifting clients and one calisthenic client, e-bike. But what one of them did is he bought himself, those Liber bars, dip station bars, the lower ones. So basically, obviously, if you can, right now it's a little bit hard to do that because literally all fitness manufacturers are out of equipment and shipping takes a little bit longer and stuff like that. But if you can, buy whatever you can. Buy rings. They're a good investment anyway. It doesn't matter if you're a calisthenics athlete or a powerlifter. Rings are a good investment. They're like $40 and you can do a lot of upper body work with them. Buy, if you can, adjustable dumbbells, of course. But for example, with the client that only has access to the floor, what we're working on is like, first of all, we have to establish like what we want to do. We want to still train all the major angles. So like horizontal pushing and pulling, vertical pushing and pulling, like legs, the anterior chain, the posterior chain. And we want to somehow like make the sets hard so that you're basically a rep, 2 reps shy of failure. Like we won't go into research here, what drives hypertrophy, what doesn't, but basically the sets have to be hard. You agree with that, right? It doesn't really matter if they're 5 reps or 10 reps, like they have to be hard. So what we're doing is
science. It's like even David in the last podcast addressed, whatever you train, you have to train hard. No matter what you do, that's the base of any kind of training success, right? So yeah,
exactly.
So we have
actually a little bit off topic, but I'm going to make it quick. A lot of people nowadays, because we really have a lot of access on YouTube to, we have so much access to information. I feel like everybody's trying to train as optimal as possible. Okay, now I'm going to do 5 weeks of 5 reps, then I'm going to drop the reps a little bit down, train intense. But what most people don't do is, so you have those, street workout dudes, you have those gym bros that have been training for 2 to 3 years and they look good, they're strong. And you ask them, what do they do? I just train hard. I just train hard, like at least 50% of my sets are to failure. You know what I mean? Like the focus shifted on training smart, but the training hard part went down.
Yes,
you have to train smart and hard.
Yep. And look, it's very interesting that you touched upon, because look at what kind of advantage do these people have that were focusing on basically training hard, and look what disadvantage have people who are very strict about their periodization mentally. Where are these people right now who had everything set, planned?
Yeah. The work basically crumbled for them. Because they're like, oh my God, I can't train in normal blocks anymore. I can't do any normal training block. I don't have because they can't periodize training normally. You know what I mean? Like they're used to. But basically, forget about your like I said, if you don't have a squat rack at home, for example, as a powerlifter, and a bench and plates and a barbell, you're gonna have to forget about maintaining your squat and bringing your back squat up, or keeping the strength the same. If you can just do pistol squats, lunges, and stuff like that, that's not going to happen. But what you can do is maintain at least some muscle mass, maybe even gain some, who knows, in your quads, in your hamstrings, in your adductors, glutes, and stuff like that. And keep some form of, what's it called? God damn it.
It's physical fitness,
basically. Physical fitness, basically. Yeah, it's better than just laying around. So with that person that trains at home, basically we're using a backpack and books. So we're he's doing overhead press with a backpack and a lot of books in it. So it's I'm going to
I want to ask you about these details. Sorry that I'm stopping you. I'm going to ask you for all those details. For now, just wanted to ask about this mental thing, because I think that what you said is very interesting with this. With these people who are so focused on being optimal, and right now, because they're stuck, because they don't have any options, they kind of move towards doing nothing at all.
Exactly. That was me the first week. That was my world was crushed.
And I'm pretty sure that many athletes who are very serious were like that first week, because that's all or nothing mentality. You know, you don't want to do something that's not going to provide the sufficient adaptation, because you're so used to doing everything, putting your whole energy into it. And I completely understand that. It may be hard to grasp at first if you listen to some person that's going to say that, okay, but I could train 100%, now it's not worth. And you're going to ask him like, but man, like it's enough that you're going to do 50% of what you did, but it's not the same, because you're mentally not there. You're totally at different place. You have different priorities right now. So I wanted to ask about that. So basically, do not stress out about your gains as much during this difficult period, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So just try to find something else to focus on if you can. And don't worry, because once this thing blows over, you're back in the gym, and 4 weeks and you're back at your old level. Definitely. We
are still not talking about years of being excluded from your activity. These are months in worst cases. Obviously, let's hope, right? We cannot predict anything. We are not experts.
Yes.
But I think that if you're talking about monthly, excluding ourselves on a monthly basis, or not a basis, but like for a couple of months, it's not such a big deal to be stressed about maintaining everything. There are people who are going through, for example, who are preparing for some kind of competitions. I'm sure that you have some clients who are.
Yeah. There was going to be nationals in like a week before we got into lockdown, and 2 of my clients would qualify for European World Championships, and one of them for the World Championships. So obviously they can't qualify now. There's no nationals. But the good part is there is no nationals anywhere else. So there is no competitions. Everybody is in the same boat. You know what I mean? So
exactly. Yeah.
It's not a big deal. It's really not a big deal.
Yeah, you don't have to like because everyone's somehow related and somehow in this situation, because it's a pandemic, right? So it's a whole world thing. You don't have to stress out about your competition. Let's put it that way. So some people are gonna be, so this is gonna be their anxiety, that's the competition. But do not stress about your competition right now, because everyone in this right now, there are other things that are more important, right, for everyone. Exactly. And we have to chill out for some time. Okay, so as we have that, and I think that the healthy attitude is an absolute like foundation of our next like points of this discussion, because once you have a good attitude, a positive mindset towards training right now, that you want to build something different, you want to maybe build a work capacity, maybe some muscle mass, maybe you're gonna find some weak points that you can work on, like in the context of muscle mass. Now I'm gonna ask you from the perspective of calisthenics athlete, right? So you do have some calisthenics athlete who are left without any equipment. And naturally, if you think about bodyweight, someone who trains bodyweight, the equipment is not such an issue as for powerlifter, but it's not completely this way, because on the other hand, you have things like weighted calisthenics, you have things like parallettes, gymnastics rings, and you have clients who are left with only floor. So do you think it's possible with maybe only access to a pull-up bar? Let's say you have an access to like a door pull-up bar, are you able to still like chase without bands, without weights, to get better at bodyweight, strictly bodyweight skill as a calisthenics athlete during like in this situation? So you have no accessory, equipment, no weights, no bands, just a floor and a pull-up bar.
Pull-up bar, yeah. So I am definitely sure if your goals are like just bodyweight training, like we talked about. So for example, those people will maybe have goals like planche, handstand push-ups, front levers. Yeah. I'm 100% sure you can make some progress. definitely. Because with a pull-up bar, you can do anything from vertical pulling, and if you set it lower, some horizontal pulling like body rows. Worst case scenario, you do body rows you do one arm rows with a backpack full of books. You know, it's better than nothing. Front lever work depends on the pull-up bar and your doorway setup. You know what I mean? But most people can do like front lever rows, front lever holds, and stuff like that. Obviously, it's not the same as when you have like a freestanding pull-up bar. You're gonna have to adjust. You're gonna have to like improvise a little bit. But yeah, definitely you can make progress. Now for the calisthenics people that like they still have like some straight arm strength goals, like they want to be able to do a front lever, they want to train like planche, but they also do like weighted dips, weighted pull-ups, because I don't know why, for example, they compete, you know what I mean, in those weighted calisthenics competitions. Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, if you have a pull-up bar, that's good. It depends on your level. The more advanced you are, the harder it's gonna be to get to a load that's gonna bring you close to failure. So obviously, doing like sets of 30 pull-ups, it's better than nothing. But what I would do is play with tempo work. Play with tempo work. Play with pause pull-ups, for example. Anything that drives intensity a little bit up. You know what I mean? Planche can be trained normally on the floor. That's like, it's not an issue, like progressions. If you're doing the planche push-ups and you want extra range of motion, like in a tuck position, you can do it between two chairs. So it's not a big deal. But you have to realize like your weighted pull-up strength, your weighted dip strength, it's maybe going to drop a little bit, but it's not a big deal. Once you're back to training, you're going to get back to your old level like that. Yes. And if you are a beginner, I'm 100% sure you're going to surpass it. Definitely. Because for example,
weighted different pull-ups.
Yeah, definitely. If you're a beginner. So for example, some beginner that has I don't know, I'm just going to blurt a random number here, like a 20 kilogram weighted pull-up and a 30 kilogram weighted dip. Those are definitely beginner numbers, you know. If you can do a single, like a RPE 10 single, like that's your max, with 20 kilograms on a pull-up, trust me, focusing on hypertrophy work with pull-ups, tempo work, like bringing your reps up, your pull-up is going to increase. Now, someone that does a weighted pull-up with 100 kilos, that's a different story. But my point is, they're not going to lose a lot of strength. They're going to lose a little bit of like neuromuscular adaptations and stuff like that. You know, when they're gonna, it's like when you go on holiday for 2 weeks and you return back to the gym and you try to squat and everything feels heavy and then you're sore for a week. It's gonna be like this. But after a week, after 2 weeks, you realize, oh damn, I'm back at my old working sets basically. So I wouldn't stress too much about it.
So you mentioned like being that this neuromuscular adaptation, let's say, part of our gains, of our strength gains. Obviously, the more advanced you are, the more you have to practice. You have to be more specific in your training. So if you're a beginner, obviously you can bring up your weighted dips by doing tuck planche push-ups and this kind of work. But later on, it's not gonna be the case. You're gonna have to like include some specific work to do it. But you have no access to it, so I would not stress out about this particular thing. However, as we know, like the more muscle you have, and because we are talking right now, we are in the segment of calisthenics athletes. The more muscle you have, definitely the bigger potential of strength gains, including things like planche, including things like front lever. If you add muscle, obviously it's gonna add some weight to your body. It's gonna add some body weight. But in the right places, a muscle is something necessary in order to make gains in planche and front lever. So, and as we know, the rep scheme or the number of reps is not such an important thing from the perspective of hypertrophy, and therefore, like the number, the intensity, not the relative intensity is much more important. So the heavy set, no matter if it's going to be a 5-rep set or 20 rep set, it should produce similar results in terms of hypertrophy, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's something that you should use, definitely. That's something that should be like on your mind, that okay, I cannot be very specific. I cannot do 1 rep max right now. But if I'm going to increase my muscle mass, and I can do it with things like, let's say, even, like you said, 1 arm rows with backpack. If you can do 20 reps of that, and you can play with tempo on your 1 arm rows with backpack, you can definitely add enough. You can achieve this relative intensity at the rep scheme that is going to allow you to build muscle. And the more muscle you have later on as you get back, the faster are going to be your gains, and the bigger potential for these strength gains, for this strictly purely.
Exactly, yeah. A bigger muscle definitely has a lot of potential to become a stronger muscle. So, and for example, because you mentioned planche, obviously I don't want you to gain a shit ton of mass in your legs, like big quads, big hamstrings. Gaining a lot of mass in your shoulders, in your upper back, in your triceps, that's not going to hinder your planche that much. You know what I mean? Because it's not, it's like the counterweight where it actually matters. It's not a big deal. So bigger shoulders should be your goal. Definitely bigger shoulders, like rear delts and lateral delts. They need to be big. They need to be strong. So maybe if you've been mostly focusing on planche, that now is a good time to focus on handstand push-ups, like bringing your shoulders up, really making them strong. And obviously do planche work on the side, like still work holds, still work tuck planche push-ups, like straight arm exercises and bent arm exercises for the planche. So
and also how much weight can you put really on your shoulders?
It's not gonna be something that's gonna be like, oh shit, this hold is so much harder now, That's actually a funny topic in calisthenics anyway, because a lot of people are scared to gain some weight. But because for example, I don't want my front lever to feel harder. They're acting like they're doing elite gymnastics rings routines where when a gymnast is on the rings, they're on the rings for like almost a minute or stuff like that. Obviously, every pound matters there. You're just like holding a front lever for a few seconds. It's not that much of a big deal, So like getting bigger is a good goal, definitely.
It's actually a good point that some people act like they're on rings gymnastics competition, because it's true. We should not be stressed out about weight gain so much, and honestly, like even from the leverage perspective, when you have a planche, and if you're gonna add weight to this, like to the front of your body, it's definitely not gonna correspond to some massive, drop down in performance, because your mass on your legs, I admit, it's gonna make everything harder.
Yeah, definitely.
Much harder. People who have big legs and do still have like solid calisthenics skill, I do have a huge respect for those people, because the amount of work that you have to put in to be able to perform some of those skills is extremely bigger, and it's extremely hard to do it. But we are not talking about, like you said, about Victorian cross.
Yeah.
We talk about front lever. And I think that everyone is able to, without any excessive stress out about weight gain, achieve front lever. And one of those ways is to build muscle. And so that's something that you should focus on during this quarantine time, definitely, especially on your upper body, because you can do it. On your lower body.
You just reminded me, do you know of... I'm probably going to pronounce his name wrong. That strong calisthenics dude, Matthews or something like that. Yeah. He's around 100 kilograms right now. The strong dipper. He has crazy strong dips.
I know the guy. Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't even train any straight arm elements now. He purely focuses on weighted muscle ups, weighted pull ups, and weighted dips. And he can still hold a very decent 5-second front lever at 100 kilogram body weight. Yeah. So, obviously he doesn't squat. He doesn't train his legs insanely. He trains them a little bit, but it's not like he's going to put on a lot of muscle mass. So it's funny to me when people are like worried about going from 72 kilograms to 75 kilograms, like you're just limiting your strength potential at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So let's do some little summary of this segment. So for calisthenics athletes, like, is it possible to make gains?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Obviously, it's context dependent. Obviously, there are going to be some differences in each athlete, but it is possible without any equipment. Okay, let's let's assume you have this pull-up bar. If you don't have a pull-up bar, let's address that very quickly. If you don't have a pull-up bar, what can you do to at least, do something for your pulling?
So vertical pulling is obviously going to be limited. Like, I'm not a fan of going outside, finding a tree branch and doing pull-ups on it. Because I'm really kind of like, in my mind, everything needs to be more or less symmetrical. So if I'm going to do pull-ups, I want the bar to be like really straight. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be like hanging on one side, even if I change my positions every set, so I make it even. So basically vertical pulling, is going to be limited. If you can't order rings, if you can't order a pull-up bar, so you're going to have to focus on horizontal pulling a lot. Like find a way, like I said earlier, backpack filled with books, do one-arm rows, use 2 backpacks, do bent over dumbbell rows, backpack rows, not dumbbell rows. You know what I mean? So you do some kind of pulling, like even upright rowing. It's better than nothing. Don't just neglect pulling just because you don't have a pull-up bar. But obviously, because like we said, exercises are skill specific. If you're not gonna be able to do pull-ups, your pull-ups are gonna drop down. Like your weighted pull-up, your body weight pull-up, those numbers will drop down a little bit. But at least you'll maintain some muscle mass, and you're gonna come back the first week, the first 2 weeks. You're gonna feel like, oh man, I can do 70% of the pull-ups I could do before the pandemic started. That's fine. 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, you'll be back to the same number, and then it's going to be easier to make gains for you because you're going to have a bigger, stronger upper back, specifically lats, from all the rowing you did, and because you still trained. Better than just feel sorry for yourself, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so like we said, calisthenics athletes, you should not really be very stressed out, even without any equipment. So now, let's move on to a bit more complicated and definitely the most complicated segment of this video of this podcast. So we're gonna address the same issue, but from the perspective of powerlifters. So this question, I want to split it into 2. So first of all, let's give them some context. So you also do have clients at the moment who are strictly about powerlifting and also struggle with similar situation, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So first of all, for these people, is something like switching goals a good idea or a good mindset to have? Because it's so, it's not very visible to maintain your powerlifting performance. Should we, from the mental perspective mainly, but also, from the physical, is it a good attitude to, for example, tell these clients, to tell these people, okay, so for a couple of months, switch your goals to bodyweight training?
Yes, it definitely is. So as always, it depends on the equipment you have available, but switching goal, like I believe humans are driven by habit. We need to have some certain rhythms. So when you wake up, you have a few goals you're going to do that day. Okay, so I'm going to work, then I'm going to do that and that. I'm going to do some laundry. So if you don't have any habits, you quickly fall into chaos. That's just my personal philosophical opinion on life. You know what I mean? Have some goals. So a lot of these powerlifters that I train, I'm not going to lie, they get depressed. They get depressed because they realize they can't squat, they can't bench, they can't deadlift. Some of them were doing really good. So I have to convince them, listen, we're just going to switch training around. We're going to find new goals so you can have habits that you build up. We're going to, for example, focus on making your push-ups better. We're going to focus on doing a lot of unilateral leg work, work some deficiencies that you might have developed with all the years of just doing bilateral squatting work, for example. So obviously the same principles apply. You want the sets to be hard. You want them to be close to failure, like a rep, 2 reps shy from failure, maybe even a set to failure. That doesn't really matter. So just find progressions or exercises, load them if you can. So for example, for most people that can squat really heavy, because I have people squatting more than 200 kilograms and they get out of equipment, they don't have access to any equipment. So Are they gonna do body weight split, body weight jumping squats? That does, it's more cardiovascular training than strength training. No, I'm gonna have them do, for example, Bulgarian split squats with a backpack holding in a front rack position. Can't they fit enough weight in so that, for example, let's cap it at 20 reps. Let's say 20 reps is the max I'm gonna have to do. I'm gonna make them do in a set. So is 20 reps super easy? Like they can do 10 reps more, play with tempo. Add a 3-second eccentric, add a 4-second eccentric, add a pause at the bottom. Whatever it takes, just make the sets hard. So there's going to be some progressive overload. There's going to be some, disruption of the body's homeostasis. So there's some gains that are going to be made. So yeah, but it is hard. Mentally, it's hard. Like the client I mentioned earlier that only has the floor available and the backpack, he's doing actually very well. For example, we upped his training frequency. He's now training 5 times per week. There's a lot of more upper body work, like a lot of push-ups, decline push-ups, pike push-ups, handstand push-up work against the wall, obviously. His upper body is looking good. It doesn't look like he's losing any muscle mass, But I know when he's going to return back to training, bench, for example, because it's specific and he benches 160 kilograms, he's not going to be able to bench that. First 2 weeks are going to be tough. They're going to feel weird. Certain reps will be misgrooved. But that's the point of what I'm trying to convey here. It's better to do something than nothing. Yeah. And obviously most people, what I've noticed, like a few friends that train and stuff like that I don't coach them, they are lost right now. They don't know what to do. Like they don't know if they should do like random circuit training, random push-ups, like just trying to get, I don't know, let's say 200 push-ups in per day. And even that honestly would be better than what they choose to do, which is nothing, which is just, everything sucks, fuck push-ups, what's the point, Even like really, really weird social media, like cardio training is better than just doing nothing, definitely. So what I try to tell them is just start doing something, and trust me, over time, if you get invested and like you put some effort into it, you're going to optimize it more and more. You're going to optimize your own training more and more if you don't have a coach. I'm talking now for people who are lost and don't know what to do, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So yeah, but the bottom point remains, the stronger you are, same as with calisthenics when we talked about weighted pull-ups, weighted dips, the harder it is going to be to maintain. So for example, I also have a few clients who, for example, bench 90 kilograms for 1 rep. Like, I don't want to put them on a spot, but okay, let's say that's weak, that's beginner numbers. Obviously it's context dependent, but it's their beginner numbers, So focusing on like, can you overload push-ups? Like put a backpack on your upper back and focus on making push-ups harder. Can you work towards pseudo planche push-ups? Can you focus a little bit on your overhead pushing strength, like pike push-ups, maybe into, back to wall handstand push-ups? It really doesn't matter. I'm fairly sure if they're going to do that, if they're going to like really make the sets hard, train consistently, returning back to training and starting to bench again, getting back into the groove, they're going to smash those old PRs 100%.
Yeah. So I want to ask a couple of like smaller questions in regards more to specific exercises and specific type of training. So for example, if you have a client who is a decent bencher, someone who is, who is not going to benefit from push-ups to the extent that they're gonna improve, So someone who is, I'm not as in this whole like number thing when it comes to powerlifting, but definitely if let's say 130 kilo bencher, comes to you at body weight of, I don't know, 90, 80 kilos, or is that very advanced or no? I think it's
powerlifting has become crazy. Like people in the 83 kilogram class bench 200 kilograms and stuff like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I saw some people that, I'm sorry for being, not very informed right here. But so if you have a client like that, what would be a better attitude to focus on if we talk about, because he only has an access to floor, and he can choose. He can choose to do either, and one arm push-up is not a big deal for him, and he can choose. He can choose to do either a leverage-based progressions and progress by leaning more forward and eventually achieving, even though it's not visible to achieve, but to strive for achieving a full planche push-up, for example. Or is it better for someone who is very specific in this bench press, lift, who doesn't want to, who wants to lose as least technique, and focusing on totally different movement is maybe not as beneficial, but I want you to clear this out. Or is it better to focus, for example, on endurance and doing sets of 50 push-ups and building it up to 70, 80, doing maybe some tempo work?
I know exactly what you're trying to say. Yeah. So, for example, it's a really hard question. It is a very hard question. First of all, what I would do is I always I coach by analyzing data. So what I mean by that is I see how people perform, what needs work. That's the data that I go through. So what I would do is definitely show me a few sets of your push-up attempts, take them close to failure, and then we'll work from that. So most powerlifters, their push-up form is terrible. Like, I'm not going to say they're going to injure themselves or whatever, but their positioning can be improved. For example, less arching in the lower back, getting more range of motion in. So I would focus on that first. And then if I see, okay, his push-up is really cool, there's enough range of motion going on, his body line is pretty solid, and he can still hit, like, for example, 50 push-ups. I don't see that much the point of doing, like, more and more and more reps. I would definitely try to progress him towards leaning a little bit more forward, like doing pseudo planche push-ups, you know what I mean? But not like, it doesn't have to be a crazy pseudo planche push-up like gymnastic body style. Your wrists need to be at the hips. Like, lean forward 5 centimeters, lean forward a little bit, just so you know what I mean? And you also, another thing you have to factor in, those people, for example, powerlifters, their wrist strength and their wrist mobility is not that strong because they don't need it. They don't need like really mobile wrists and strong wrists. So that's another factor you have to factor in. The more you lean forward, the more wrist stress there is. So now you have a powerlifter that wants to like train for strength, and you have him do a lot of wrist prep work, wrist strengthening, wrist stretching. So time is limited. We only have 24 hours. There's only 7 days in a week. What I would do, like personally, what I would prefer most is focusing on vertical pushing. I would make that dude focus on handstand push-ups and elevate his hands. So they're, deficit handstand push-ups. I wouldn't try to make him like work up to a freestanding handstand push-up. Like, you don't need to do a freestanding handstand push-up. You don't even need to do stomach to wall handstand push-ups. Do good back to wall handstand push-ups, bring your tricep and shoulder strength up, because honestly, most good big benchers, powerlifting is also a lot about leverages, creating a strong arch, bar path and stuff like that, how wide your grip is. You want to make the range of motion as least as possible. So most of them have very weak overhead pushing strength because they don't just practice it. It's not all of them, but most of them do. Like, I know people who bench 160 and can't overhead press 80 kilograms for 5 reps. That's crazy. That's crazy weak shoulder and tricep strength, you know what I mean? So those people will definitely benefit from direct overhead pushing strength. Handstand push-ups are easier. More people, like skill-wise, against the wall, more people like powerlifters have done them and have experience with them than working towards like forward lean push-ups, like planche type of work, you know what I mean? There is a bit of wrist stress that you need to take care of, but it's not even close like there is in a planche. So this might be a very good progression. Like, obviously still do horizontal pushing, but let vertical pushing be your main push, Like, let that be your main push that you focus on, and then make horizontal pushing, the pseudo planche push-ups, play with tempo, whatever it takes so the reps are hard,
Okay.
So cardio, like you said, endurance-based, like, it's gonna work.
Not a cardio, but for example, doing sets of 60.
You know what I like to do, and what I have some people do? I'm a really big fan of rest pause reps. So, you know, I would, for example, have him do 80 reps of push-ups. I would choose a progression that they can do for like 15 to 20 reps. Then I would make them reach 80 reps in a rest pause fashion. So, for example, only 30 seconds of rest between. So that means, let's say it's a normal person and he can do like 20 push-ups is his max. So he's going to do like 18 push-ups. He's going to leave a rep or two in the tank. He's not going to go to failure. Rest 30 seconds, go again and do 12 push-ups. Rest 30 seconds, 8, then another set of 8, then 5, 3, until they reach 80. I'm a big fan of that in this case, like the pandemic apocalyptic style training, you know, you only have the food available.
So it's a time to utilize some of these methods, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Because normally we do have an access to loading. We can do a better. We have an access to better sources of, you know, progression. But once you're stuck with only floor, then you have to be more creative.
Exactly, you have to play with, like you said, leverages. You have to play with rest times, different metabolites, techniques. Yeah, everything else is more important right now than loading because you can't load. But this only, like this crisis that we're doing now, it just proves, for example, how good of an investment a pull-up bar and rings are. Like, they're not expensive. You can get good wooden rings for $40, which is basically cheap. It's for free. And you never know when you're going to use them. So, yeah. So people should definitely invest in that.
I'm gonna ask you about this particular thing, but I wanted to quickly get back to the exercise section. And so I asked you from the perspective of upper body and what is more efficient way is to go for leverages or more reps. And you answered like to pretty, you know, you have completely different and better, I think, approach, because you would go for vertical pushing, make that the main work, because it's also not as skill. It doesn't require so much new pattern learning, and also doesn't require so much wrist preparation. And then you would go for something like in the middle, so you don't have to do tuck plunge push-ups for 2 reps. You can lean just a little bit, you know, 5 centimeters, and you can do your pseudo plunge push-ups, make them harder.
And make them, for example, rest pause style sets, like I mentioned earlier.
And rest. Yes.
Exactly.
Forgot. So this is for the upper body. Now for the lower body, would you say that doing things like, because we have this whole, I don't know if you like watched, for example, in my last video, I made a bit of research on this topic. You know, because I split calisthenics into some subcategories like weighted calisthenics, upper body skill training, you know, so hand balancing, I think like some people would add hand balancing to it, mobility, and one area, dynamics, obviously, like freestyle, these things like people on during like competition do, you know, which is basically like from many skills from gymnastics high bar, yeah. And one of the categories that I did not know about before is advanced bodyweight leg training. And I don't mean like pistol squats. I thought that bodyweight leg training finishes on the pistol squat. And two, you know, and I'm very surprised because there are some things like matrix squats, things like, you know, when you put Nordic curls that you can do very advanced. Things like glute ham raises, basically. CC squats, dragon squats. Do you see how these things can be implemented into a powerlifter's routine that is of they obviously going to require skill and mobility, so maybe it's not as optimal. So what would you say about it?
So, like I said, with calisthenics, for example, you mentioned dragon squats and stuff like that. That's a lot of hip mobility. When dragon squat is the one where your other leg goes around behind you. That's basically. I would much rather for people to do normal pistol squats, because I say if you can do a dragon pistol squat, pardon, you can still make pistol squats harder by, I don't know, grabbing something in your house that weighs something and maybe play with some tempo work. You know what I mean? And really focus on your quads. So, for example, right now, what I have my powerlifters who don't have access to basically any weight do is heels elevated, very close together, tempo goblet squats, for example, with a backpack, with whatever. And trust me, every single one of them, from the people who squat like beginner numbers to the people that squat heavy, complain about quad DOMs. So while they might not maintain their back squat with it, they're at least going to maintain some quad mass with it. You know what I mean? Hamstrings are a little like the posterior chain. That's a little bit of a different story. Like hamstring, glute ham raises, pardon. They're an insanely good hamstring exercise. Really good. But also insanely hard. Insane. Like, do you know anyone that can do 5 clean reps of glute ham raises?
That's why I was very surprised to see that, this is an area that you can really like go very far with.
So for example, hamstring curls, most people do them by just doing the eccentric part, because that's much easier.
And then, pushing explosively.
Push it back up, exactly, yeah. So what I prefer, because I used to do hamstring curls, glute ham raises, I'm sorry, and I can do 1 rep. Probably not anymore, but I could do 1 full rep. Me and, Uros, the client I train, he's a powerlifter now. He could do 2 reps. My preferred method of learning the glute ham raise is with resistance band placed around you, so they help you back up. You know what I mean? So I would do them with my feet under stall bars. So, then I would put a resistance band on top of the stall bar and over my belly, and I would use the same height and the same resistance band and try to progress my reps, then use a lighter resistance bands and stuff like that. It got me to a not piked, but like hips fully extended rep glute ham raise. That was like 2 years ago. And Uros, that client, he could do 2 reps. But like we're in quarantine right now. People don't have even access to resistance bands, let alone somewhere where they could attach it. So just the eccentric part, lowering as slow as possible, is better than nothing, obviously. But I also have them do a lot of unilateral hamstring natural curls, where you lie on your back, you bridge up, you do a glute bridge, and then you just, with 1 leg, some tempo work, and a big, like really focusing on your hamstrings, you can make your hamstrings work quite a bit. So, like I said, maintaining some form of mass or even gaining a little bit of mass in those muscle areas, like muscle groups, is not a big deal. But for example, you're not going to maintain your deadlift. There is no way you're going to maintain your deadlift with glute ham raises and natural hamstring curls. Like, there's no way. There's no way, because it's a totally different lift. It's like, you did deadlifts in your life, so
yes,
you have to really. You have to give up some control, we talked about this 2 days ago. You have to give up some control. You have to forget about deadlifts. Like, you can't deadlift right now. Forget about deadlifts. Focus on something else. Like in this case, focus on getting 1 good rep of glute ham raises.
It's a great goal.
Like I said, we are goal driven. We need habits. We need routines. We need a plan in our life, or else that's how I feel a human just becomes lazy and sits on the couch and watches TV. So if you're just going to stress about, oh no, I can't deadlift, fuck natural hamstring curls, fuck glute ham raises, you're not going to do anything. So you're just going to have to give up some control, meet yourself in the middle and decide, okay, I can deadlift. It's not ideal, but whatever. I'm going to focus on getting my glute ham raise, like at least 1 rep. I'm going to focus on maintaining as much mass as I can in my posterior chain, so hamstrings, glutes. You can do glute bridges. You can do single leg glute bridges. Add tempo to everything to make it harder. Add any kind of load you can. Most people have, like, this is going to sound funny, but you have water bottles. Put water bottles into a backpack, put it on your pelvis, and do glute bridges. Add a 3-second eccentric, and trust me, your glutes are gonna burn. But that's a problem. Most people, like, I started with calisthenics. So with me, it wasn't, right now I have access to a home gym, so I can't really say. But the first 2 weeks in the quarantine, the first 3 weeks actually, I was training in my living room at my girlfriend's place.
Yeah, I saw some.
Yeah, I only had access to chairs and 1 20-kilogram Olympic plate, because I had it in my car. I drive 1 plate in my car always. I don't know why. So you know.
Yeah, and the frustration on your face was was definitely there.
Yeah, yeah. So
But at least you was frustrated and irritated, but you like were doing something. So
exactly, yeah.
yeah,
But most people that start training, yeah, most people that just start training in a gym, and they never like had that issue of not having access to equipment. They will feel
live
this,
luxury.
yeah, they're gonna be the most like depressed and sad about it, definitely. So yeah, you have to give up
Because
some control, man, and you have to just focus on other stuff.
yeah, and it kind of it's nice because we go like from question to question, and the next and and actually I wanted to ask about you said that planning is very important, not only like in your training but also in your life in general. And so would you say so right now, as I think main advice we could give to people in whatever kind of situation is still to don't, even though we all know that this training that you're going to do is not as serious and it's not going to produce as big results, like let's not lie to ourselves, but we should still treat it seriously. We should still like put some goals on paper. We can still like make progression. Okay, this week I'm gonna do the goal is, for example, five handstand, 3 sets of 5 handstand push-ups, 3 times a week. Next, we're gonna go for 3 sets of 6. We can progress by leverage. We can measure our lean in forward lean push-ups or pseudo planche push-ups. So we're gonna go 5 centimeters. Maybe next week 7 centimeters. We can be we can still be very specific and very serious about it, even though we cannot do like in the macro scale. We are not as serious because obviously you're not going to maintain everything, and you cannot be specific. But on a daily basis, you can actually you can be very goal oriented. You can be very focused, and you should do that if you want to remain both your physical and mental health, I would say.
Exactly,
And I want to hear, like, because you probably agree, but yeah, how is do you actually recommend people to do, like, to, if you put them on some program, it's not only just maintain, okay, we're gonna do that for 1 month, for 2 months, or are you actually serious and actually like put the goals, okay, for the next 2 months,
all of my
this
all of my I actually do. All of my clients right now have a trading blog that I prepare them. It depends, obviously, on the equipment they have access to, but we're still trying to drive up as much hypertrophy as possible, as much like progress as we can. So for the weaker clients, that means improving push-ups, making them harder. For the stronger clients, it means working on handstand push-ups against the wall. And for the other ones with equipment who have like access to dumbbells and stuff like that, it's even easier. It's basically just muscle building training, like lots of goblet squats, lots of rowing, lots of dumbbell benching, dumbbell flies, just general like training to try to drive up as much muscle mass as you can. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I prepare a sheet for everyone with goals, with like every week gets sent out on Sunday, like always, because I know it helps them mentally. Because if I would just, like I know some of those routines are free. I saw some like powerlifters prepare bodyweight workouts for like they're a YouTuber and they prepared bodyweight workouts for their viewers.
I think right now to go into bodyweight section.
Yeah. And honestly, like some of those routines are so bad. Like they just have like AMRAP sets on everything. But I understand it. Like they don't understand bodyweight training that much, So this situation that we're in, that's a great thing to learn more about bodyweight training, like proper calisthenics training, and how to like progress when it comes to strictly training with your own bodyweight. Like, what are you gonna do? You have a lot of free time anyway, so check some good books out. Do you have like, what are the books on, like Overcoming Gravity? You have the Bodyweight
There
Fitness
are not
Subject.
as many good books about calisthenics, I would say, if you want to have some Bible kind of thing, but there are definitely a position, like the positions that you can get something out of.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, I think having a plan, writing down goals, treating your training like as serious as possible, definitely helps 100%.
Yeah.
And if like for the coaches that have like their own clients and their clients don't have any access to any equipment, don't just send them a text message on what to do. Prepare the sheet, even if you think, it's bullshit. It's gonna make your client feel better. You're there to make him feel better. You're now your coach. They trust in you. They believe in you. They need you for support. So yeah.
Yeah, so the next question kind of goes into insights of your business and of your. I did not tell you about this one because I came up literally a minute ago with this question. How do you feel this situation affects the fitness in both? I'm gonna first ask you about the coaching business, your coaching business, and coaches in general, because people, they're definitely scared to to pay these times, like to spend any money. That's
Yeah.
first. And secondly, they cannot train optimally, so many of them are gonna quit, obviously. So that's first question, how that affects you personally, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, that's not a problem. So
Okay, so
basically,
that's the first question. You
yeah,
and general
basic,
coaches, do you think it's a big deal?
yeah, basically me, all of my business, I'm working as an online coach right now. Like 90% of my business is online clients. I used to be like one-on-one coaching in real life, but the last year and a half, everything is online. Even the local clients that I have from the same country, the same cities, I coach online, and maybe we do like once per week or once per 2 weeks a training session together. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
can coach them in real life. Yeah. So my business, honestly, I kept all of my clients since the quarantine started. I haven't lost any, but I did gave them like actually a few days ago everyone paid for the new months because I take monthly payments. I don't know if this is okay for me to talk even. Like
No,
I'm
no,
very
no.
bad. Yeah.
Do not go into
No, just
details.
saying.
I just wanted to ask
Yeah.
if you feel like it affected people's attitude to having a coach. Basically, this is a
Yeah.
question.
I didn't notice it with myself, but I do know some people will lose clients, especially the ones who are focusing on like only real life training. I know a lot of them are trying to survive now by offering their real life clients online training. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of coaches that I saw on Instagram are now doing those live stream workouts and stuff like that. But honestly, I don't know that much about their business, so I don't know how much is it's affecting them. But I know for a fact some of them did lose clients, especially the general population, people who like they just train 3 times per week. They have how should I put it, like semi-serious goals. Obviously, they want to get a little bit stronger, gain more muscle mass, but they won't be willing to shed blood and sweat tears for it, if you know what I mean.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
for them it's easier to just message the coach, hey coach, so I need to save money, and for the next 2 to 3 months I'm not going to be able to train, hope that's okay, and then continue later on. I do imagine that's happening quite a bit right now for coaches.
Yeah, because for me that's like that was the first like I do coach some people, and like one of the clients that I had is in the UK that I still have, and obviously we had to change everything, so he's still allowed to go outside and train once per day. I think it's some kind of like, or either recommendation or it's actually the law right now. But yeah, but it definitely affects the mental side of just spending money. So every single business is gonna it's gonna affect every single business in some way. but especially coaching, coaching, for example, people who coach powerlifters, because these people cannot literally train even, suboptimally. They're forced to be at home. So when you say, for example, you personally, that you did not lose so much, or you did not lose clients, it only shows that you have a good connection with them, and that they are really that you're basically a good coach for them, right? Because they still want to, they still know that you can still help them with their goals.
Yeah, you lagged out a little bit. I don't know if it was my issue, but I didn't hear all the audio, but I think I know what you were trying to say. So, for example, for the powerlifters that I coach, they're so serious. Like one of them, as soon as the shit went down in America, he immediately ordered a squat rack, bench, plates, gym mats so he can deadlift. My other two clients, they're building a home gym, and quite a lot of them already have home gyms. Mm-hmm. So it's not a big deal, but I do have like 2 serious powerlifters who are left just with the floor. Just the floor, and not even dumbbells, but even they ordered dumbbells, and one of them is going to build a home gym. So
great.
I can't really relate to it that much, maybe.
And it's great, and I mean, I'm very happy about it. Yeah, and it only, like I said, it only shows, that these people are, still they know that you can still help them with their goals, which is great.
Yeah.
And so now I wanted to take this question from the coaching businesses and coaching people online to the fitness world in general, how it changed, how the direction of it, it's starting to show how some people want to benefit from this, how some people are trying to change things, are starting to talk about things they don't really know about. There are kind of like situations that expose some people, and do you see certain
obviously
behaviors?
Yeah, things in the fitness industry are definitely changing after this. So the first thing that's going to happen is a lot of coaches are going to do more online coaching, because a lot of coaches that don't do online coaching and are forced to do it now because their real life clients can't come to them anymore because we are locked down here. So a lot of people will start more online coaching now. If they're good coaches or bad coaches, that's obviously a debate on its own, but definitely a lot of people are going to start more online coaching. And I think the gyms, the physical location, like a gym, they're going to suffer a lot, because so many people are building home gyms. I feel like once this is over, they're just going to stay in their home gyms. So I think gyms might feel like their profits going to go down after the quarantine, you know what I mean?
Yes, so I'm actually pretty sure about it.
Yeah, so especially the serious gyms, the serious strength-oriented gyms. I'm not talking about Planet Fitness now. They're just gonna get new people, But like powerlifting dedicated gyms or calisthenics dedicated gyms. Like if you get your own equipment, a lot of people won't go there, at least not for a few months. But I actually have obviously some people will return, because training in a gym to me is awesome. I have a home gym, but I prefer training in a gym. I'm just more efficient when I'm in the gym. Everything goes by quicker. I don't waste that much time. Yeah. So I love the environment of a gym. But yeah, the fitness world is definitely going to change. But also, for example, you can see a lot of supplement shops pushing shady stuff right now, like their vitamin stacks. Obviously, there's a law here. In our country, there was a law that you can't claim that your supplements or anything you sell helps fight coronavirus, because it doesn't, obviously. So what they started doing, what some certain supplement shops started doing, is not mention coronavirus. They will, for example, put an ad on, and it will be like for some multivitamins or whatever, and there's going to be like pictures of little bacteria around it. So the people immediately, it doesn't say it helps fight viruses. but it's like people get the same impression, you know what I mean?
Message, basically,
So a
yeah.
lot of
People who are in fear.
yeah, exactly. So a lot of sleazy marketing, basically. Yeah, and a lot of obviously a lot of coaches trying to sell like training under the pretense of it's gonna drive your immune system up and stuff like
Of
that. You know,
this
yeah,
context, yeah.
yeah.
So the health.
Obviously training, yeah, but I think the biggest change that's gonna be is gyms losing profit and a lot of coaches doing more online coaching. Those are the two biggest things that's going to change for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even some people, maybe even some increase in bodyweight training, like some, some people who never trained with their own body weight, falling in love with it and pursuing it further, wanting to learn handstands, wanting to, just those three things basically.
Yes, I wanted to say that from the perspective of calisthenics as a discipline, I think that might be a very good idea, because even though people are not like did not come to calisthenics world strictly to get into this discipline, maybe they will leave this thing that we're going through right now with the new passion to calisthenics. Maybe that's gonna drive them
Yep.
to the bodyweight skills, to advanced stuff, even though they came for push-ups and for, they started watching some
Yeah.
tutorials, they started, experimenting with some other stuff, and they're gonna try to learn handstand. And for me, that's great, because that's only gonna, benefit, it's a very positive thing that a sport discipline can still, grow. It's a discipline that literally everyone can pick up and can progress in, no matter of the equipment, no matter of whether you have an access to gym. And in these difficult times, it really shows up that this accessibility is such a big, advantage. So there are two like strictly questions related strictly to the topic of being in a quarantine, being stuck in our room. And so the first one is still, I think that we addressed this so much today, but I did not strictly ask you about the investment, the best investment that, from the perspective of calisthenics athlete and powerlifter, the answer might be similar, but what would you recommend to buy if someone wants to, if someone goes to you, some client goes to you and say, okay, coach, please like tell me one thing. I don't have much money, but I can buy one or two things that maybe are gonna like help me with my gains right now.
Yeah, if money is the issue, dumbbells and rings. You can get like adjustable dumbbells that can go up to like 30 kilograms and 30 kilograms, and they're adjustable, pretty cheap. Rings are cheap. Pull-up bar is cheap. If money is the issue. If money isn't the issue, obviously for like someone that focuses on weighted calisthenics, buy a pull-up bar and a dip station and a dip belt and some plates,
And some
for a power lifter, buy a squat rack and a bench, and because that's the best thing you can do right now. But if money is the issue, free weights like dumbbells, even kettlebells, but dumbbells are better because they're adjustable, easier to like load up and down, and the rings, because basically with that you can train your upper body really good to maintain muscle mass, to even gain some muscle mass. So yeah, that's regarding fitness. Mental wise, like focus on some stuff. So if you aren't working currently, because some people aren't working, like go for walks, which is good. What
is not working? I would say a big, like lots of people actually are without a job right now.
Yeah, exactly. So occupy your mind by, I would start by going on long walks every day, which is good for you anyway. You want to get some neat activity in. Take this time to maybe learn a different skill. Like, just realize you're not in this alone. It's not a special case. Lots of people lost jobs. Lots of people are unsure of their future. Everything sucks a little bit right now, but worrying about it to the point where you get depressed, where you start to really feel sorry for yourself and bad, is going to do more harm than good. I know it's easy to say that stuff, but everybody sooner or later gets to that point where they just realize, hey, more worrying doesn't bring any good.
Yeah.
Because there's really no point in it. So yeah, learn a skill or two, start reading more, just fill your free time. Because right now, what most people are going to do is just eat. They're going to eat everything they're going to see. They're going to drink everything they're going to drink. They're going to watch all the movies. They're going to, they're going to overdo it with the chillaxing stuff. Obviously, watch movies, eat. It's not a big deal right now. But don't fill your whole day with that.
And it's good that you addressed eating, because that's actually one of last questions that I wanted to, before a quick summary that we're going to do at the end, I wanted to touch upon the topic of nutrition. And it's a big deal right now, because people, like you said, are prone to overeating. Oh, wait, because there is some kind of lag. Oh, it's okay right now. So obviously people are prone to overeating. Obviously, there is less.
Can you hear me?
Yes, right now, yes.
Oh,
but
okay.
we had some kind of lag,
Yeah.
but it's okay right now. So yeah, so my point is, first of all, without any kind of schedule throughout the day, you don't have also any schedule in your diet. And as we know from all the psychological, binge eating studies, having no schedule, having no eating plan is a first step to overeat and to binge, and to lose any kind of control over what you eat. So if you, let's say if you have a client who was cutting, and he was pretty, maybe not for shredding out for the bodybuilding competition, but I mean he was cutting. Is that a good period of time to continue this cut, or would you say to him to go for maintenance O2?
So this is another question that it depends on the client's mental status. So basically, if they're handling this lockdown very hard, cutting more and more and more, being in a deficit, it's just gonna drive all other stressors up, because things aren't ideal right now. So maybe I would go for maintenance. If it's like someone that handles things better mentally, maybe let's continue. It really depends on the person. Like I said, it depends on the person. Bulking wise, I would say too, if someone was bulking and training was going really good, and now this person only has access to the floor, I would say don't bulk. Maintain your body weight, because obviously you can't train optimally. You know what I mean? And when I say cutting, for the previous point, I'm not talking about cutting to crazy body weight, low body fat percentages, 8% body fat, 7% body fat. We're talking about an overweight person trying to lose weight. I don't see any issues of continuing doing that and develop good habits and stuff like that. But like you said, there's a lot of free time going on right now. People do have eating disorders that are gonna come out now more than when they're busy, because time flies by faster. So it's a complicated question. I'm not a psychologist, because psychologists deal with eating disorders, but I would try to manage it as good as possible. Try to find the best thing to do for that person right now in that specific time. It's person dependent, but yeah, I don't think giving up goals is that much of a good idea. For example, I do have eating disorders. I used to be. Oh wait, it's lagging, I think, again.
So I hear. Okay. I know that it's.
So Yeah. So I used to be very fat. I used to weigh 115 kilograms and stuff like that, and I cut down. Anyway, before the quarantine, I was cutting. Actually, I was the last 4-5 kilograms before my desired weight that I wanted to hit. And I'm not gonna lie, my diet went to shit. My diet the last 4 weeks is crazy bad. good, but it could be better. It could be worse. I mean, you know. I hope you heard me because we lagged a little bit again.
You know what? I did have some sort of lag, and unfortunately, we start having some connections issues. But let's not let that kill the flow of the discussion. So you basically mean that you've been cutting, right? And this situation just is totally against
yep.
holding
And
our.
And especially now that I moved back into my parents' place, there's a lot of like sweet stuff around here, a lot of chocolate, a lot of everything. So it's just hard. It's just everything's harder to maintain. So yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I do struggle with exactly same thing, because even though, you know, it might not be it might be shocking for some people to hear that, but I'm definitely a person that is and you know that people who are, you know, more advanced or more just sit in this, they know how people look, behave and stuff, you know, who are more prone to overeating and to weight gain. And for instance, for a person like me, having no schedule, having no, you know, any pressure, any sort of activity outside of strength training, it's, you know, it's just gonna mean that I'm gonna gain some weight. And I obviously gained some. To be specific, I think about 2 kilos more. So I weigh about 2 kilos more right now. It's definitely harder to perform some calisthenics skills. It's definitely also mentally worse because it can be visible in the mirror. But like I said, it's normal. You cannot be so stressed about your physique right now because there are other problems, there are other issues, and you can get
you
back.
shouldn't let it get to you.
Yes, because once your mood is dependent on the physique, it's not very good time to be this kind of person. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to add something to the nutrition question, to the diet one?
What?
Do you want to add something to this discussion?
No, basically, what I wanted to add was right now we're in troubled times, so this doesn't just depend on the diet right now, but things are hard, things aren't easy, obviously. Try to have goals and try to have good goals that you can accomplish, but also realize it won't be easy to control everything like it was a month ago. You know what I mean? So if you can just control training and having a good mind state, control that. Fuck diet. Like, okay, diet is bad. It's not going towards your goals, but nothing you can do. Obviously, don't just eat junk all the time and gain like 10 kilos during this quarantine. But even controlling as much as you can is better than just letting it all, you know, flow naturally and just giving up on life, basically. Because I was like that the first week. I basically was like, what's the point even? I wasn't even doing my job, honestly. Like, I was replying to my clients every 3 days. The first week I was depressed. I was thinking like, what's the point? Like, the world's gonna end anyway next year. Like, this shit is gonna go out of control. There's not gonna be a society anymore, and thoughts like that. You know what I mean?
Yes. And you go and you kind of like go more and more crazy with this kind of thinking. Yeah.
So yeah, try to stay strong. Try to stay mentally strong. That's my suggestion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think that we, like, honestly, we went through all the little questions, but I would like to go through a little summary. So I'm gonna just so let's do it like pretty, you know, naturally. Let's go over all the questions that we had, and just give a little sum up. Every, like, both of us gonna give something. So first of all, you know, the mental state. Should we be very stressed out about training and gains in general right now, or should we let it off like completely, or should we be somewhere in the middle?
Like, try to just be how should I say it, like real about it. Try to do the best you can out of this situation. That's my advice.
Oh yes, I would say, yeah, I wanted to say that find something in the middle, but your advice, your answer is actually better, because what you can control, try to have, try to control
Exactly.
that. What you cannot, don't even bother, thinking about it, because you're not going to change it anyways. And it's very easy to go into that mental spiral, like you said, to think about losing the gains, losing everything. So that's the first thing. When it comes to the calisthenics, strictly calisthenics athletes who don't have any access, can these people still make gains? The answer is yes. The answer is yes.
Definitely.
Obviously, also, like you said, there is some context here. But for example, someone with 100-kilo pull-up is not going to maintain his pull-up if he does not have an access. But someone with 20,
it depends on like the calisthenics, like you said, the goals they focus on. So basically, if someone is purely training with their own body weight, it's easier to maintain than someone who's doing weighted calisthenics, definitely.
Yep.
And
Yep.
their level, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but it's definitely possible to not to stress out about anything and to go for strictly bodyweight skills. You can do it at home without bands, without any stuff like that. When it comes to when it comes to the powerlifting clients and powerlifting trainees, would you recommend them to change up their goals for this period? Yes.
Yes, definitely.
And
You have
goals,
to. Yeah, if you don't have access to equipment which lets you do the exercises you're doing, switch goals, focus on other stuff, and try to maintain as much muscle mass as possible.
yes, exactly. If you are a powerlifter and are not in this ideal stage right now, and you're forced to train at home, what are some of the methods or lower body exercises that you would not? Would you go for the more the weighted, sorry, the advanced calisthenics, or would you rather go for the split squats, backpack, goblets, things like that?
Yeah, like I said, it kind of depends. Certain advanced leg workouts with just your own body weight requires a lot of flexibility. So pistol squats are good. A lot of people can work up towards pistol squats and make them strict and overload them with a backpack. I would definitely include like normal unilateral work like Bulgarian split squats, alternating lunges, whatever, and glute ham raises for the posterior chain, your hamstrings. So basically, it depends on the powerlifter's level and how much they can overload certain exercises. But I believe you can make unilateral leg work hard. A backpack and some books that you can find around or whatever that you can, because a lot of things can be accomplished by playing with tempo and even shortening the rest times, whatever it takes, so the sets are a little bit harder.
Yeah, so the advice is utilize some methods that you would maybe not normally utilize, like tempo work, like rest pause, and choose the exercises that are still going to provide some stimulus, but are not as specific that you require certain preparation time.
Exactly.
If we had to choose best investment when it comes to people who are focused on calisthenics and powerlifting. For calisthenics, what are our choices basically?
For calisthenics, definitely like rings, pull-up bar.
Rings. Yeah.
Yeah. Rings are more than enough, yeah.
Yeah,
And
rings are basically enough, I would say, even.
yeah. And for powerlifters, like I would say rings for both, but for powerlifters, definitely also access to dumbbells that you can load up like heavy, that it makes exercises hard. Because with dumbbells, you can do a lot to maintain your muscle mass as good as possible, maybe get stronger in certain positions. Like it's gonna do wonders.
Yeah, and honestly, this is something that, for example, not surprised, but it's good for me to hear, because I was not expecting this answer from you. So the dumbbells, I thought that you're gonna go more for like plates or for, you know, maybe bands to maintain just, you know, some kind of resistance. But as I think about it right now, you suggested some exercises that you can really overload with dumbbells and they're adjusted. So it's a really good choice. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can get really cheap adjustable dumbbells nowadays, and it's worth investing. So yeah.
And when it comes to diet, like what we should not stress out about our goals strictly, but we should not let out all the control, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like obviously, if you are a bodybuilder and like you don't have any like food disorders and stuff like that, you're gonna control your diet way more than an average strength athlete. Because let's be honest, of course, every powerlifter, every calisthenics dude, we all want to look good. That's like, if anyone tells you, yeah, I just care about strength without looks, they're lying. Yeah, but we won't make it a big deal if we're gonna gain some body fat. While a bodybuilder who knows how hard it is to cut down for shows, how important it is to stay lean and stuff like that, they might control this easier because they've been doing it like for years already, you know? So I wouldn't stress about diet that much. Just do the best you can, and that's good enough.
Yes, and from the mental perspective, once again, so both of us agree that having a plan, having a certain schedule, in every single area, honestly, but in your training specifically, as we're talking, helps tremendously with, you know,
Definitely,
proper
yeah.
everything.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
have a plan, set up goals.
And follow them, yeah, as good as possible. Yeah, try to. I would say that that's not that much training related, but try to even plan out your days. Like try to have a certain schedule, you know. So for the people who work from home now, obviously you're not gonna work for 8 hours. You're gonna do your job in like 3 hours, most people. But have a certain time period when you're gonna work. Have a certain time period when you're gonna train. Also have a certain environment where you're gonna train. So if you're like want to train a little bit more seriously, obviously you're not going to train in the living room while your girlfriend watches TV and your kids are playing. You're probably going to have to find a space where you can put some music on, you know, create an environment that makes you comfortable, but also has no distractions. So,
yes,
yeah.
That very good tip, actually. Yeah. I'm really glad that you mentioned about it, because that's training, for example, that's why I like training in the gym more, because I associate this room with so many different activities that I'm not as focused when I train.
Same.
Right. So
yeah, I'm the same here.
So I guess that we like the timing is perfect, because we were planning to go for 1 hour and 30 minutes. And I think that this discussion
exactly like that.
Yeah. So I was having some sort of control over the time, honestly, but it was not like I had to, you know, ask some these extra questions were just because they came to my mind as we were speaking. So hopefully this situation won't last as as long, you know. So you're in Slovenia right now. The predictions, do you see some sort of changes? They're still going up, like the restrictions are still going hard, or
like we're basically like fully locked, like I said earlier. So the only way they can make this harder is to not let you out of your house, for example, to lock you up in your house, you know, because right now you can still go out, but you just can't leave your area. So basically they're pretty strict. But I've heard some chatter, but you know, those things depend, that we're gonna start letting certain businesses, letting certain people out next week. So we'll see. But honestly, I think like places, so like big shopping malls, fitness centers, movie theaters, stuff like that, where a lot of people gather, I think that's gonna be the last thing that's gonna open up. Because you know what I mean? Because that's places where a lot, where a lot of people gather, that's the easiest way to create another pandemic, you know. Like one person is sick, and instead of infecting one other person in a fitness, you infect 100 people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
But
so people should make the best out of it. If you have some money saved, like $50, $80, $100, order rings. Order fucking rings, because push-ups on rings are much better than push-ups on the floor, if you're strong or not. Dips on rings are better than the dips you're doing between two chairs. You can do body rolls, you can do pull-ups, you can do so many things with rings. It's gonna make your life easier. Have more money, order dumbbells. Have even more money, order a squat rack. Like, make a little home gym if you can, if you have the place, you know. Also, what some fitness centers are doing, but well, not fitness centers, but small gyms, they're lending out equipment. A lot of gyms I know are lending out their squat rack, their barbell, so they still make profit and their clients can still train. That's an awesome idea. So get on that if you can, you know what I mean? Does your gym do that? If your gym doesn't do that, contact the owner, ask him if he'd be up for that, for lending equipment out to, for example, serious members. And maybe he's going to be up for it, because he's going to make money, his business is going to stay stable, and you're going to be able to train. So, you know, try to find out ways to make it better. Just don't sit on your ass the whole day and feel sorry for yourself, because trust me, it's just going to make it worse.
Okay, so perfect summary. And I think that because that went so great, I don't want to just mess this up. So we can finish right now. So thank you, Marko, once again for the discussion. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for having
during
me.
difficult times, you decided to still, you know, provide some value with people who maybe struggle right now and maybe seek for some kind of information, and they can get it for free right now. Obviously, all the links to your Instagram, to your social media, and everything are in the description of this video. If you have any comments to Marko or to myself, you can obviously ask them in the comments, and we're gonna answer them. And yeah, so for everyone, these are difficult times, but we're gonna push through them. And yeah, this is the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, man.